Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Alpha X replay cast right here on the Alpha X YouTube. My name is Rushi, and we've got a good one for you today. Spawning the bottom right is our blue Terran player for Team NV. This is Maru. And in the top left, his opponent for the Shopify Rebellion. This is Scarlett. This is a replay cast out of the World Team League regular season. This is from round number 9 between Team NV and the Shopify Rebellion. And I mean, we gotta just jump right in to the actual gameplay here because SCV's cruising across the map here. Man, I don't even get a chance to talk about any of the build-up here. It's just all action all the time here. I can give you just a little bit, though. It is looking like it's going to be a 2 barracks proxy, so we'll have to see how things shake up, if this is going to get scouted or Maru's going to develop behind this. But let's set the stage here right now. Team NV currently in round 9, up 3-1 on the team score. It looks like it was Byun versus Dongregu, each taking a map previous on, and then Creator, 2 maps over Lambo. So right now, Scarlett looking to try and even up the team score and bring her team to the ace match, which is going to be really important here. It is Pride of Alteris is our first map, and this is going to go relatively unscouted right away. Maru finding the sweet spot in Scarlett's scouting paths here. I believe it looks like on the mini-map, there is an Overlord hanging out over top of the ramp entrance, so this should not be unscouted for too much longer. Spawning pool seems to be about 3/4 of the way done, and that's going to be able to develop just fine in that regard. So ultimately, we are just going to be shaking things up here as the first bunker is going to be able to go down, and that Marine actually starts harassing that Overlord. That's actually a really smart move here by Maru, eliminating some of the early supply of his opponent. Yeah, it's going to force a drone pull immediately. All these drones are going to come running on out. Now, there isn't enough DPS here for Maru to be able to push this back just yet, so he's going to have to be very creative here as he stutters, but not going to get great engagements here. But those drones are always going to be able to outpace the Marines. So Scarlett with a decent hold here so far. Maru has a chance to develop, but the development, honestly, is just going to be building back at home. He's got a factory down back at his main base. He's going to salvage the bunker. I think that's the right choice here, especially since the spine crawler has already finished up, and Scarlett with a pretty strong hold here so far. Man, I mean, we're not even 3 minutes into this game. Good scout here by the Zerg player. It's a reasonable trade. She loses 5 drones off at the head of this defense and really kind of stops all of the initial production here. There are 4 Marines, and against the small amount of Lings, that is problematic, but it's not a major issue. Maru's actually just going to drop a bunker on the low ground. Okay, so Maru is wanting to try and commit into this. I guess he did keep one of the barracks on the ground, so that is currently being dealt with, but utilizing one of the barracks as well, just to continue with that scouting information. It's effectively dead, so it might as well get some additional value as it does end up floating along. So this kind of creates a bit of an interesting predicament here for both players. Maru's not really in a wonderful position in terms of overall supply. I mean, he's down 9. He's going to be able to eclipse a little bit of that, building out some Hellions. That's going to beef up his supply just a little bit. But right now, it's just this one bunker doing the work of 1,000 Marines, just trying to keep Scarlett from being able to free expand. I mean, the reality here is that this prevents a drone from floating on by. And if Maru pays close enough attention, can really just eliminate that. But picking off this spine crawler would just be a great opportunity here for Maru. Instead, he is just going to back off. Salvage yet another bunker, gets most of his money back. He's gonna block the third base. Maru with some cheeky plays here, and not terribly surprising. I mean, the reality of the situation is, oh, is he gonna try and land it again? No, he's not gonna get that down. The reality of the situation is, this is how a lot of the Korean players play against foreigners, right? You don't show enough respect. towards the top tier Korean players, sometimes this happens. And it seems to absolutely be the case here in game number 1. Now, this is a best of 2. So, not really a best of situation. But Maru going to continue the aggression here. He does need to try and equalize the supply count. And that seems to... Oh no. Oh, that's brutal. That's just 19 drones. He lost 1 Hellion. Maru with some outstanding plays there. 19 drone kills. Scarlett just groups all of her units, and her drones just take one for the team. So overall, I mean, the worker count situation is not great for the Zerg player. Maru's going to be able to continue expanding forward. He's dropping an armory back behind this, getting stim pack. Banshee Cloak's going to be finishing up. This is just going to be full steam ahead for the Terran player. But what do you do as the Zerg player? You lose 19 of your workers to a drop that only kills off 1 of the Hellions. Well, I mean, you got to play some wicked defense here. There is centrifugal hooks coming into play. That's going to be a very useful component of this defense, and it's going to be very important that Banelings are a part of this. Banelings currently morphing in right now. Only 8 for Scarlett. She's not going to have Baneling speed, so any amount of splits here by Maru are going to be very, very powerful, and exactly that ends up being the case. Now, those splits do allow those queens to start putting in a little bit of extra DPS, and this ends up being a pretty strong hold here so far for the Zerg player. No major economic damage one way or the other. Banshee Cloak now finishing up. 2 Banshees will be a very, very powerful enemy against the queens as they come in. Maru's going to split up his forces and start moving things around. Good Overseer timing, though, manages to push away those Banshees for the time being. But what does Scarlett have to be able to deflect any additional damage coming into the main base? Her Zergling count is very, very low. The Banelings, I think, are about the only thing that she can afford to really send up to defend, and it's going to be queen defense here as well against a large amount of Hellbats. This is just going to go from bad to worse, honestly. So the red Zerg player really, really struggling to hang on here. She's looking to try and keep her team in the running for the team point overall in today's match of the World Team League. Losing out on the medevac here, really, really crucial. Most of these drones have been allowed to survive. 4 drones able to stay around, but unfortunately the queens do get picked off, and that leaves this mineral line just a barren wasteland. So low. And both of them are in the red. Don't lose all of those. Maru gets almost a free pick there. It was really, really good. So very, very good harassment here by the blue Terran player. He's going to be posting up here at the 3rd base location, and I think this could just be a death push for Maru, finding a very, very strong path to secure some more positioning here. Tank's going to be able to get up onto the ramp a little bit. That high ground vision is going to be very, very critical as well. And it's just Ling Bane Queen for the Zerg player. I don't think it's going to be near enough to stop what Maru's got cooking here. Even with just 1 tank only, that's still going to be very, very powerful pushing potential for the aggression here into the space. These Banelings are going to have a difficult time connecting, despite the fact that they do have centrifugal hooks. All right, and 2nd tank coming into play. Now this becomes a very, very tall order. I think the blue Terran has done what he needs to. Pressure coming down onto the 3rd base, and a couple of transfuses going to make things a little bit more interesting. Decent surround, but enough units on the backside here, and that just makes things very easy for the blue Terran player here as he cleans up game number 1 in this best of 2. We're into Glittering Ashes for map number 2 here as the blue Terran player very dominantly conquering his opponent in game number 1. Tons of aggression and not allowing Scarlett the opportunity to really even settle down into that first game. Gives him the map advantage, and something that the 4-time GSL Codes champion is famous for, being very, very aggressive and creative with his push timings and just being relentless. Never ending. pushes, never-ending drops, never-ending damage. And Scarlett's going to have to get creative if she wants to put together a win against the Korean Terran player. The Canadian Zerg has an opportunity here on Glittering Ashes, a little bit wider map. She's also not getting proxied here in game number 2. So scouting is going to be very, very important, but also I think just being able to play a more standard macro game could be a positive thing for the Zerg player. We've seen Scarlett perform rather effectively over her time as a professional player. She's made numerous trips to Code S and made it pretty deep a couple of times, making it as far as the round of 8 as well. So the Zerg player, certainly not without her ability to excel in top-notch situations. We'll have to see if this game ends up being one of those excel moments. But both players going to open up very stock standard. It is a barracks into command center for Maru. Currently sitting on 1 gas as well, so nothing too wild there. Third hatch going down around the 2-minute mark, so admittedly a little bit early. That seems like a bit of a shift from an economic standpoint, delaying the queens just a little bit, but not by a whole lot. It's going to be a additional command center. Very, very interesting here. Early command center out of Maru, as he does pick up the reactor for his, what I assume will be factory. Yeah. 111. Alongside of this early third command center. So the reality now just comes down to how does the Zerg player respond here. Scarlett is going to be up on the supply count right now, but that's just mostly because Maru is delaying a lot of his unit production to get additional mining potential off and running. And Maru doesn't want Scarlett to really see this coming so early on. He's got the Marine on patrol. Scarlett keeping her Overlord back a little ways, though, so that's not going to be a huge issue to shake out. But the Viking's even going to be an additional piece to this. So really not wanting Scarlett to see what's coming up. I mean, this isn't quite that spicy of a build. I'm curious what Maru's still planning here that is going to go above and beyond preventing your normal scout denial. Zergling does try to get up the ramp, is not going to see that command center just yet. Let's finish up into that orbital command as well, so we'll get some additional stuff. The third base is going to float out. I'll have a Liberator follow-up on top of it. And it's just a lot of Ling Bane Queen here for the Zerg player. Baneling Nest does come down. Additional drones. It's just Drone City for the Shopify Rebellion Scarlett. And we'll get some normal harass out of Maru. Maru's going to try and secure himself an opportunity to just advance into the middle game. And it's just going to be pretty standard bio. Double engineering bay going to come down as a result of this. We'll see some additional barracks. Now, Scarlett's been rather uncontested for the opening of this game. So she's been able to drone pretty hard. And she's going to be able to throw down her 4th base without any major issues. It's not going to be a pushing point yet. Of course, obviously, eventually that's going to be a spot of contesting. But all things considered, both players are relatively leaving each other alone here. It's like they agreed before this game began that, hey, could we just like hang out for 6 minutes and like not really worry about each other and be like, I got you. But some good creep spread cleanup is going to be helpful. Against 6 queens, well, you know, there's only going to be so much that you can really get accomplished. Zergling is going to get a scout off on that 3rd base, which will be important. But I think Scarlett is going to start turning on a little bit of the aggression here, as she's going to have to defend against the Liberator that's come into the main base. Having one Spore helpful, going to at least force that Liberator back and forth. But this is where problems arose in the previous game. That's so many worker kills. 16 have gone down so far. The Baneling's going to try and shut down these Hellions, but there's just no way to catch up with those Hellions. Not a good enough surround, and those units are going to be able to zoom on out. And it comes at the cost of 18 drones. I mean, that is just such critical damage for the Zerg player. I mean, look at the exchange here. 1,500 minerals to 600. The gas count, negligible at this point. So now Scarlett's having to play from behind once again. She does throw down a Spire. 1-1 is about a quarter of the way done. And this just ends up being more and more of Maru just being very nimble and adept throughout the course of this game. He's going to be able to continue his expansion here. Armory just about finished up. Going to pick up another factory as well. So additional Hellions and Widowmites could be very, very useful against the Ling-Bane Queen style that Scarlett's currently going into. But Mutas do provide at least a little bit of aggression here against this kind of build. Widowmine's obviously been very, very good against Mutas. This is gonna be a fourth base that is just largely uncontested. Inland's going to be able to get some decent connections here, though, but mostly finding those Hellbats. It's about the biggest use for those Hellbats right now is just to body block for the bio here. Great mine connection onto one of the queens as the units are going to have to get picked off, and that ends up being an okay hold here for Scarlett, but Scarlett's going to come away with much more than just deflecting one army away to really secure a bigger advantage here in this game number 2. She hasn't had a chance to really make it over to the other side of the map, so no real economic harassment, no real economic damage in general. It's just been deflect the Terran player over and over and over again. But it has bought time for the Mutas, and that's going to be very important here as the fourth base is going to be floating out for Maru. Maru's going to be able to secure just a little bit. Missing one of the upgrades here. +2 armor, never actually getting started. There it finally does get started, so a bit of a delay there. Scarlett could possibly catch up a little bit on the tech battle, but seeing those rapid stutters, very, very exciting to see the Terran player do. He's just going to pick up a leaf. And it's just going to be a continuation back behind, but getting that 4 base situated is going to be very, very crucial. But there are no missile turrets. It's going to be a good moment here for the Mutas of Scarlett. We're going to find at least a little bit of damage. Picking off and thinning out those Marines makes things a little bit more damaging here. He's going to be able to get 9, 10 workers in total. She's able to cover that ground a little bit, and I think she gets out with a decent amount of those Mutas, so a much better situation for Scarlett as she gets a little bit of return fire and is able to jump ahead on that overall supply count, 186 to 156, so that's a better position for her to play from, but once again needs to find additional damage if she wants to come away from that engagement feeling like she's won, and getting some damage down on that fourth base location would be a nice victory. Now, Marines for Maru going to be positioned in a nice spot, but the mines are going to be able to help soak up a little bit of this damage. Banelings come rolling on in as the units continue to backpedal further and further. Workers are pulled away from the Planetary Fortress, and the Planetary Fortress is going to take enough damage from those Banelings and Zerglings, and they will be a fallen base for Maru. Maru's able to stabilize and push back, though. Plenty of bio as a result of this counter push, and Scarlett's not going to have near as much as she did just a moment ago, especially since she's missing out on a lot of her Baneling count. Banelings are going to get jumped upon just a little bit, so if you get picked off before they are done morphing, I think the Thor is going to be a hefty piece of machinery that Scarlett needs to try and find a way to deal with, especially since those Mutas will be able to take decent amounts of damage as a result. control of Maru. He's just a little bit too strong. He's going to be able to push on into this 4th base location and start getting additional damage done. But does he have a response for the Banelings? Banelings come rolling on forward, and the bio ends up taking a beating here. Mines, though, able to continue getting additional work done, and that's just way too much damage. Maru completely overwhelming his opponent in game number 2 and comes out the victor 2-0 in this matchup.